Good afternoon. The meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the December 17th, 2020 meeting of the City of Raleigh Appearance Commission. My name is Corey Bates, and I am chair of the commission. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are conducting this meeting using a remote electronic platform. I would ask that your patience today as we proceed. There may be some slight delays as we transition between speakers, participants, and presentations. Many of the staff members, as well as I, have multiple screens, and so we will be looking off back and forth, and so we still trust that we are paying attention. The commission is charged by providing guidance, advice, and recommendations regarding the visual quality and aesthetic characteristics of the City of Raleigh. The members of the commission represent a varied field of expertise and interest in the quality of design in Raleigh. And I'd like to ask staff member Carter Pettibone to briefly explain to the participants how we will be conducting today's meeting. Carter?
Thank you. I'm with the Raleigh Planning and Development Department. Today's meeting will proceed very similar to a regular meeting with a few minor adjustments. First, if at any time a participant has issues with the technology, please send a message to the moderator. That's Aaron Morton. The chat function has been disabled for the meeting, except for participants and between the participants and the commission members, except for the ability to message the moderator if you have technical difficulties. For each administrative alternate case, a city staff member will provide a brief introduction and presentation. The applicant will then be acknowledged and present their case and have 15 minutes to do so. Speakers for the applicant are asked to provide their name and address for the record. Following the presentation, the commission members will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and staff. The commission will then hear from many other participants who would like to speak on the request. As mentioned previously, members of the public had to sign up in advance to participate. I don't think we have any members of the public here to participate today in any of the cases. When all the comments from the applicant, staff, and others are complete, the commission chair will bring the item back to the table for deliberation. And then the commission will review the findings listed in the applicable section of the UDO. And then the chair will ask for a motion, which will take the form of a recommendation to the planning director for action on the request. The motion can be a recommendation for approval with conditions, or denial. The commission may also vote to defer the case to the next regular meeting. This is typically in order to receive additional information. The commission will then vote on the request. And as a reminder, if your screen is turned off, please let us know who you are when you're speaking. Otherwise, keep your monitor on. So I'll turn it back over to Chair to conduct the administrative alternate reviews.
Great, thank you, Carter. Let me turn my microphone down. So our first case tonight is AAD 23-20, Summit at Swerve. This is one we saw at our last meeting and are coming back with additional information. We have applicants Tim Grissinger, who I think will speak, as well as Jim Chandler, Mike Zaccardo, Michael Birch, Jennifer Ashton, and Kathy Connors. And our staff presentation, Charles, if you would go ahead and lead us off, that would be great.
Sure, thanks, Corey. So again, this is a return of AED 2320 Sawyer Road near Garner Road and Peterson Street. It's multiple properties. So again, this is a build to case, which the UDO defines as the area on the lot where a certain percentage of the front principal building facade must be located, measured as a minimum and maximum setback range from the edge of the proposed or existing right-of-way, whichever is greater. 2, the required percentage specifies the amount of the front building facade that must be located in the build to, measured based on the width of the building divided by the width of the site or lot. I'm going to read the intent here. So the build to is intended to provide a range for building placement that strengthens the street edge along the right-of-way, establishing a sense of enclosure by providing spatial definition adjacent to the street. The building edge can be supplemented by architectural elements and certain tree plantings aligned in a formal rhythm. The harmonious placement of buildings to establish the street edge is a principal means by which the character of an area or district is defined. 3, the build to range is established to accommodate some flexibility in specific site design while maintaining the established street edge. I'm also going to read general requirement number 1, because it does apply to each of the next 2 cases. So on corner lots, a building facade must be placed within the build to for the first 30 feet along the street extending through the block. So just to describe the case here, the applicant is proposing to develop 6 new apartment buildings with a combined 154 dwelling units. The development provides 179 parking spaces and above the minimum requirement of the EO. The site is not located within the floodplain, but the southernmost property is within 200 feet of the 100-year flood zone. The property is in residential mixed use, 3 stories. The development does provide a network of pedestrian paths and an internal, centrally located recreation area, including the play area. The applicable build to is that of the apartment building type. The build to is 10 feet to 55 feet, 70% of which must be occupied by building width on the primary street and 35% on the side street. The applicant seeks an alternate to the primary build to the building 1 on the attached plan sheets in your documents. The building occupies 63% or 7% below the required 70%, and an alternate to the side street build to building 6. The building here occupies 28% or 7% below the required 35%. At building 1, the proposed amenity area is approximately 28 feet wide, which is combined with the building's width of approximately 112 feet, brings the combined build-to coverage to 140 feet or 79%. At building 6, the applicant proposes a gazebo and plantings. The proposal does meet the 30-foot corner build-to requirement at all locations. So building 1, the applicant proposes an amenity area, including pedestrian path and gazebo, which is lined with plantings, provide a buffer to the adjacent property. You'll recall that at your previous meeting, we did discuss the proximity of this gazebo to the adjacent property, and the plantings provided in this new submittal are meant to address that. At the location of building 6, the applicant proposes a gazebo lined with plantings and a mixture of trees and shrubs along Carnage Drive. It should be noted that a stormwater device precludes the placement of additional amenity area elements along the northern edge of the building 6 lot. The site is otherwise fully wrapped by sidewalks and is approximately 0.2 miles from the Walk Creek Wetland Center and Greenway. Should note the gazebo at building 6 is also new in this symbol. Be happy to take any questions from the commission.
Any questions from the commission for Charles? Okay, being none, I'll go ahead and ask Tim or company to go ahead and present their case here.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Jennifer's gonna present if that's fine.
Great. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, commissioners. My name is Jennifer Ashton. I'm a land use attorney with the firm of Longleaf Law Partners. My address is 4509 Creedmoor Road, Suite 302 in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm here today on behalf of the developer Solstice Partners, LLC, and I'm joined on the phone by the development team of Tim Grissinger from Timmons Group and also Kathy Connors from Solstice. Just a brief history of this project. As I think was stated earlier, we were in front of you November 19th. We got some great feedback at the time, and we took your comments to heart. We went back, and we have provided you all with some updated plans today, trying to strengthen the street edges for this project. As Charles stated earlier, this is intended to be a 6 apartment building development with a total of 154 dwelling units, and this is intended to be an affordable housing project. Charles, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Charles did give a brief overview of our requests. I'm just going to run through those again for you. We have 2 requests for today. The first one is related to UDO section 3.2.4 D2. That requires apartment buildings comprise at least 70% of the primary street build to. We are asking for a 7% administrative alternate, so that building 1 comprises 63% of the primary street build to along Sawyer Road. As Charles mentioned, with the amenity area that we are proposing, we do get to 79% with the addition of the amenity area and the landscaping. The second request that we have today is related to UDO section 3.2.4D4. That requires apartment buildings comprise at least 35% of the side street build to. We are asking for a 7% administrative alternate so that building 6 comprises 28% of the side street build to along Carnage Drive. Now, at the November 19th commission meeting, there was a good discussion on the amenity area near building 6. Like I said before, we did take the commissioner's comments to heart. We are going to be showing you an enhanced amenity area today in that building 6 location with additional amenity and landscaping. So Charles, if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is an aerial of the site. We have 3 right-of-ways near and around the site. We have Sawyer Road to the north, we have Peterson Street, and we have Carnage Drive. Just so you know, Lot 1, which is one of the Build 2 deficiencies, is located on those 2 lots to the north of Sawyer. And then Building 6 is located to the south of the site near Carnage Drive. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. The 2 blue stars here, this is the overall site plan for the site. I will show you the landscape plan in just a moment, and then we are going to zoom in to the specific areas so everyone can see the amenities and landscaping a little bit better in just a moment. But I did want to show you the overall site plan. The 2 blue stars are the areas we are going to be focusing on. The one at the top of the screen is Building 1. That is our primary street build 2, and then the blue star to the south is going to be our side street build 2. I did also highlight for the commission the 2 gazebos in those areas, just to kind of highlight where those are going to be located. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the overall site plan for the site. And again, I am going to zoom in just a moment to give you a little more close-up detail of these areas, but just wanted to give you an overall perspective of the landscaping for the site. We do have a lot of street trees, and we've added street trees and additional shrubbery in the amenity spaces near Building 1 and Building 6. If we could go to the next slide, please. Okay, we are going to start with the Building 1 Build 2. Again, this is our primary street Build 2, where we are required to have 70%. We are at 63%, but we are adding an amenity space with a gazebo and a pedestrian path that leads to the back of the site where there is a mail kiosk. At the last commission meeting, there was some conversation and discussion about the location of this gazebo and if we had placed it in the appropriate location. We just given the close proximity of that single family home that is adjacent to this site. And we did in this slide provide you kind of the footprint of that single family home so you can see how it's located in relation to the gazebo. That home does set pretty far back. It's a long home. So when we took a look at the location of the gazebo, we decided to leave it where we had originally placed it. And the reason behind that was twofold. One, we thought it was better for the single family neighbor to the side of this site to have that gazebo closer to the driveway than having it back by their backyard. From a safety perspective, we thought having it closer to the road would allow more visibility into that gazebo in the evening hours. The other reason that we decided to leave the gazebo in its current location is to strengthen that street edge. We were trying to align it with Building 1 as best as we could, obviously keeping in mind that we had to create a pedestrian path as well off of Sawyer Road. But we did take a look at the commission's comments, and we do feel that the gazebo is located in an appropriate place. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the landscaping for Building 1. Some things to note that we have added based on the commissioner's comments from the last meeting. We did want to show you some enhanced landscaping over in the amenity space. We have added shrubbery on 3 sides of that gazebo. We've also added a shade tree to the south of that gazebo to try to provide some separation between the gazebo and the single family home. And then we also are showing landscaping as you go up that pedestrian path toward the mail kiosk, and there are shrubs around the mail kiosk. So we believe for building 1, with the addition of the amenity space and the landscaping, we have met the intent of the build 2 requirements by strengthening that street edge along Sawyer Road. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is a close-up of the building 6 location. And just some things to highlight here. We did try when Tim was designing this site, he really worked hard to create kind of this centrally located amenity space for the residents. You will see up near that description of lot 2, we do have a picnic pavilion with grilling stations, 2 playscape areas. This is a highly amenitized site. And then there to the south, as you're heading towards Carnage Drive, there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting about whether or not that open space grass area was a usable amenity space, and if there was any way to enhance that to strengthen that street edge and really create a usable amenity area for the residents. We took the commissioner's comments and we are proposing a gazebo to the south of that amenity area. If we could go to the next slide, please, I can show everyone the landscaping. Tim and his team did a great job of adding a bunch of landscaping to that amenity area. He added a row of hedges or shrubs along the boundary with the single family home. That was a concern of ours at the last meeting about the location of that gazebo and whether or not we would be providing enough shielding and privacy to that single family home. We worked really hard to try to accomplish that, and we think we have with the addition of the shrubs. Also, we have added landscaping around 3 sides of that gazebo. And the last thing that we added street trees along that entrance drive off of Carnage. Previously, there were street trees on the left-hand side of that entrance drive. We had not put them on the right-hand side just because at the time there was a stormwater device located there. That stormwater device, I believe, to the closer to Carnage Drive has been removed. So that allowed us to put some street trees in there. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And this is just a typical of the gazebos that this developer uses in their developments. Again, I just wanted to provide you with a visual of the actual structures. This also is landscaped on 3 sides, like the ones at this site are going to be. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you. And this is just a summary of the criteria that you all review in determining whether to recommend approval of this request to the planning director. Like I said earlier, I do believe taking all of your comments into account, which we really appreciated. We have enhanced the amenity areas and we've enhanced the landscaping to really strengthen that street edge, not only along Sawyer Road, but also along Carnage Drive. We think we're meeting the intent of the Build 2 requirements. We've increased pedestrian connectivity throughout the site, and we would ask that a recommendation of approval be submitted to the planning director so we can build a great affordable housing community for the city of Raleigh. And at this time, we'll be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners have.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton. I appreciate that presentation, and I appreciate you taking our comments from last time and doing a good job trying to listen to what our requests were. Any questions from the commission for the applicant? Any other questions for staff? All right, being none and hearing that there are no neighbors that would wish to speak, I will go ahead and close this hearing. Any comments from the commission? Any discussion?
I think it looks great. I really appreciate the effort they made to hear what we said and incorporate it.
I echo what Adam said. I was not present for the November session, but I did read the notes in advance of this meeting, and I think every single thing you all recommended last time they did implement rather into this project. It looks great.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well. I think it's come a long ways. I think there were good comments last time. They implemented them very well. The additional trees along the fence line, along the street edge for building 2, I think is great. You know, the gazebo, I could go with or without, but I think the additional plantings are great, and I appreciate that effort. Any
Yeah,
other?
Corey, you're talking about the gazebo on building
Building.
6, building 6.
Building, yes, yes. That one right there, yeah.
I agree with you. I think the concern the last time was whether this development would be buffered from the single-family home just to the right on this image.
That's right.
Because there wasn't a planting plan. So now seeing that there is a line of plantings along that edge, I mean, that mitigates the concern that I had before. And I like the street trees that are placed along the driveway. The gazebo, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I would be willing to say I would be okay having that gazebo or not at the discretion of the developer. I think it might add more noise to that side of the site rather than if it wasn't there.
Right.
But I think all the rest of the things that were added to the presentation, I totally agree with and appreciate them taking our comments to heart, and wouldn't have any problem approving this.
Chair, this may have been discussed last meeting. As I mentioned, I wasn't there. I did jot down a question. With the placement of the gazebo on building 1, and even today the comment was made, you know, we thought it would be better for the neighbor if it was where it is positioned. Now we're going to leave it. Was there any conversation with the neighbor? Did they, I don't know that they get a vote in this development, of course, but if they had a preference front or back based on how they live now, I was just curious if the applicant had mentioned that.
I have not heard mention of that. It does not sound as if they had. I'm happy to open it back up to have them comment. I will say that, you know, the applicant has not shown up to our meeting or given us any written, the adjacent neighbor, I'll say, has not given us any feedback. It has been posted. So I'll assume that they're okay with it.
And
that
fair
being
enough.
said.
They have public option to come in, and if they haven't spoke up, then we'll just leave it where it is. I was just curious. Thank you.
I personally think it's a good placement. I think it does hold the street edge fairly well, more so than if it was in the back. But that's just my personal opinion.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm going to go back to building 6 and the gazebo with that one. So in the image that showed all the parcels at the beginning, it was an aerial image. The last time we talked about, there's an older tree right at that corner where that gazebo is being shown. And if the applicant decided not to put I guess if the commissioners agree that we could either take or leave that gazebo. If the applicant decided not to build the gazebo, I wonder if we should ask to have that one tree remain. I think it went along with some of the other trees that are along that street.
This is William. I would agree with that.
I would say as long as it is healthy and you know, it's reviewed by the city arborist as something that it could and is, you know, would be a good specimen to remain. I could go along with that as well.
I think if we're talking about the tree in the corner by Carter's Drive, maybe we could get Tim to explain, but it sounds like that tree is not there anymore.
Can we open the floor back up to the applicant and ask if they've had if Tim has had any of that conversation?
Yeah, that tree was deemed unhealthy and it has been since then removed. So that no longer exists. So we had arborists go out there and decipher that tree, and it was diseased. So
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, so hearing that, I like the planting plan that we saw. But
Great.
I could still take or leave the gazebo.
Any other feedback from the commission?
I would agree with the gazebo, and just seeing how it's planted to screen inwards, I wonder about that. Maybe don't screen it. Don't put the plants around the edge of the gazebo. I mean, I imagine people could sit there and look inwards at that grassy area. But what looks to be big osmanthus between the properties seems like a good idea.
Yeah, so you're saying to the north, if they did not provide that, it'd give a little bit better visibility into that grassy area. Maybe a little more access. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think most of the ones are right around the gazebo are pretty low, but I had the same thought with the ones right on the corner there. I think they're Burford hollies maybe, and I understand that's trying to keep a consistent edge with the shrubs by the driveway. But it would probably be a good idea to keep the sight lines from the street as open as possible. Just a comment.
Yeah, I agree.
There's another feedback. Maybe we can go through the findings really quickly. The approved alternate meets the intent of the Build 2 regulations, which I believe says it does. I'll skip the second. The third, the approved alternate does not substantially negatively alter the character defining street wall or establish a Build 2 pattern that is not harmonious with the existing built context. I think we're fine there. The change in percentage of building that occupies the Build 2 area or increased setback does not negatively impact pedestrian access, comfort, or safety, which it doesn't. Site area that would have otherwise been occupied by buildings is converted to an outdoor amenity area, which we're just looking at. So number 2, the approved alternate conforms with the comprehensive plan and adopted city plans. If we could find some policies, LU 2.2.
And UD 5.4.
LU 2.2.
Yeah. LU 2.2. Okay. Okay. With that being said, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Would you like to add to that motion that the gazebo could stay or not with building 6?
Yes, in whatever word orientation you guys would like to use. I'll leave that up to the professionals.
We'll let Carter, word that.
I wonder if we can just offer that as a suggestion, and I mean, I feel like they either with it or without it, they're meeting the intent, and they can choose to take our advice or not on that. That's my 2 cents. But.
I agree with that. With that being said, I will second that motion.
Corey, if I may, this is Carter. You might want to put it as a condition just so giving them the option to remove it or not, because the staff, when they review this, are going to look at the plans and, they're going to refer back to this. I just think it'd be a little more clear if you give them that option through a condition.
Okay, so a condition would be that the
Building 6 is optional as deemed necessary by development.
There you go.
Carter, does that work, or do we need to say it has to go, or it doesn't have to go?
I think you can make it an optional thing. I didn't want there to be any confusion when the review staff reviews these plans and so it's clear.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And do you want to also do the plantings around that as well?
Yeah, I would add to that the plantings would be optional with the, as well with the surrounding the gazebo area and immediately surrounding the gazebo area. Does that sound right, Jamie? Any further discussion? I think our recommendation, but I don't think we need to put it in there, is that, if it does stay, that the plantings to the north of the gazebo, don't necessarily need to be there as well. But that's up to the developer.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, I'll ask that we take a vote by hands. If your screen is off, if you could just signify by stating your name. So we have a motion, a second, all in favor. Okay, any opposed? Looks like we have unanimous. So that is approved. Thank you very much. Let's move right on to case number 2, AAD 24-20, 2 on Place. This is also one that we saw last month, and the same applicant. So I will go ahead and ask Charles. You're doing this one as well, I believe. Charles, to go ahead and if you can just quickly give us a walkthrough of this one as well.
Sure. So I'll skip reading the build to definition and just know it is the same. The corner build to does apply on this one, and they are seeking an alternate for that as they did last time. So here the applicant is proposing to develop 7 new apartment buildings with a combined 200 dwelling units. The development provides 220 parking spaces, 20 beyond the minimum required by the EDO. The property is zoned residential mixed use 3 stories. The development does provide a network of pedestrian paths and an internal centrally located recreation area, including a play area. The applicable build to is that of the apartment building type. Build to is 10 feet, 55 feet, 70% of which must be occupied by building width on the primary street and 35% on the side street. The applicant seeks an alternate to the primary build to for buildings 1 and 4 on the attached plan and the documents along Bragg Street. An amenity area is proposed along Bragg Street, the length of which is approximately 34 feet. Thus, the combined coverage length of building and amenity space is approximately 159 feet, 45% of the required coverage. Additionally, the applicant requests a corner build to alternate to building 1 at the intersection of Bragg Street and Sewell Street, as the building is located approximately 61 feet from the corner. The amenity area along Bragg Street is divided into 2 levels, separated by a retaining wall. The 2 areas are linked via a concrete stairway leading from the top lot to the gazebo. Additional amenities include a child play area and covered picnic area, along with shrub and tree plantings. And I should note that there is an additional amenity area located along Sewell Road outside of the The site is located adjacent to the Greenway entrance of the Chavis Way Greenway, which provides access to Chavis Park and downtown to the north and Walnut Creek Greenway to the south. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Any questions from the commission for staff? All right, being none, I will go ahead and open this up to the Tim or Jennifer. Jennifer, I guess you're going to do this one as well, Ms. Ashton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Jennifer Ashton, Longleaf Law Partners. My address is 4509 Creedmoor Road, Suite 302, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm here today on behalf of the developer Solstice Partners, LLC, and I'm joined by the development team of Kathy Connors from Solstice and Tim Grissinger, who is the senior designer for this site, and he is with Timmons Group. As was noted earlier, we were at your November 19th meeting and we got some excellent feedback at the time that we went back, we redid the plans and have provided you all with updated drawings today that we think address your comments. Just a quick reminder, this is also an affordable housing development. There are going to be 7 apartment buildings total with approximately, I think it's 200 units in total. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Charles did give an overview of our requests. I will run through those again really quick. Request number 1 is to UDO section 3.2.4 D2 that requires apartment buildings to comprise at least 70% of the primary street build to. We are seeking a 35% administrative alternate so that buildings 1 and 4 comprise 35% of the primary street build to along Bragg Street. With the amenity area that we are proposing, staff has stated that we get to 45% of that required coverage. Request number 2 is to UDO section 1.5.6C. That requires on corner lots that the building facade be placed within the build to for the first 30 feet along the street. Our building 1 is set back 61 feet from that corner. So we are asking for an administrative alternate to that requirement. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is an aerial of the site. Some existing conditions to note for you all. We have Sawyer Road that currently ends in a cul-de-sac. You'll see in a moment, and we discussed this at the last meeting as well, that Sawyer Road is going to be extended all the way to Bragg Street. So we are going to be increasing vehicular and pedestrian connectivity to Bragg Street. There will be sidewalks on both of the sides of the street for that new roadway extension. Also to the south of this image, there is the existing Greenway Trail. I will show you that in more detail in just a moment. But I did want to just highlight that for you. Also at the November 19th meeting, we talked a lot about the orientation of building 1 and building 4 along Bragg Street. And the reason that those buildings were oriented the way that they were, just to remind everyone, Bragg Street has a significant grade decrease as you're moving along the roadway. I believe it was a 30-foot drop from the intersection of Garner Road and Bragg, and then as you're heading, I believe it's east on Bragg Street. We've got a 30-foot drop in grade, but we'll cover that more in a moment. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the overall site plan for the development. Just some things to note. This is a highly amenitized site. We were trying to create, kind of a central amenity area for the residents. You will note towards that Sawyer Road extension, there is a picnic pavilion with grilling stations, 2 playscapes for different age groups of children. And then we have taken your comments to heart. We did add a gazebo to that lower level amenity area. We also wanted to take into account your comments about connecting those 2 amenity spaces. So you will see in the next few slides, there is now a stairwell that does connect the upper level amenity area to the lower level amenity area. The blue arrow that's heading along Bragg Street, that's to show you where we are deficient in the primary street build to. And then the blue star is to show you where that corner requirement is located. Like I said before, we are required to have the building facade be 30 feet from that corner. We are at 61 feet. Again, we had to orient building 1 and building 4 the way we did because of that steep grade change along Bragg. We weren't able to meet ADA requirements for parking and the build to. And at the end of the day, this is an affordable housing complex. ADA is priority. So that is why we had to orient those buildings the way that we did. I also wanted to point out to you, I had mentioned the Greenway Trail. The green arrows show the existing Greenway Trail. It is adjacent to the site. So we think the residents will have easy access to that if they would like to use it. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the overall landscape plan for the site. Some things to note just with respect to the Build 2 requirements. We do have street trees that run along Sawyer Road, that new extension. They run along that amenity area, really strengthening that street edge there. And we also have trees that run along Bragg Street, again, strengthening that street edge. This is just also showing the existing greenway. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is a close-up of the Build 2 exhibit for the site. Again, we took into account the commissioner's comments from the last meeting, and we really did appreciate them. We went ahead and we added a gazebo to that lower level just to make, to address the commissioner's concern that this needed to be a usable space. We also added the stairwell connecting the upper level to the lower level, again, to increase that pedestrian connectivity. There are sidewalks along Sawyer Road as well, so residents can access that lower level amenity area through those sidewalks as well. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is an exhibit that shows the pedestrian connectivity. Also, there was some questions at the last meeting about the grading for this lower level amenity area and whether it was actually usable. Tim will be happy to answer any questions that the commission has on that. We think that with the addition of the gazebo and the green space, we are meeting the intent of the Build 2 requirements here. Just for reference as well, we did leave that lower level amenity area, the majority of it as green space, because if the commissioners remember, there is an underwater stormwater detention in that area, and there's also maintenance easements and utility easements that are required by the city of Raleigh along Sawyer Road. But again, we did take your comments into consideration. We added that gazebo and that stairwell, and we will go to the landscape plan next to show you the addition of the street trees. So like I said earlier, we do show street trees along Bragg Street, really strengthening that street edge there where we are lacking building. And we also have street trees along Sawyer Road, again, to strengthen that edge there. We also have added plantings on 3 sides of the gazebo, just to give it an attractive appearance. But we can go to that next slide, please. Thank you. These are photographs of typical structures that this developer has in other developments. Again, we just wanted to give you a visual of the type of structures that you will be seeing on this site. These are photographs of the playscapes and the picnic pavilions. If we could go to the next slide. And this is a photograph of the typical gazebo. If we can go to the last slide, please. Thank you. This is just a summary of the criteria that this commission looks at in determining whether to recommend approval. I won't run through all of these in detail, but I have stated some of the criteria already that we believe with the amenity spaces and the landscaping that we are adding, we are meeting the intent of the Build 2 requirements along Bragg Street. We also have worked really hard to increase the pedestrian connectivity on this site, not only with the sidewalks throughout the site, but also with that extension of Sawyer Road to Bragg Street. And we would ask that we have a recommendation of approval be submitted to the planning director. And with that, we will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton. I appreciate that. Listening and responding to the comments of the commission. Very much appreciated. Commission members, any questions for the applicant? Being none, any further questions for staff? Okay, that being said, and understanding that there are nobody to speak from the general public, we'll go ahead and close this and hear your thoughts from the commission. Any thoughts? I'll just go ahead and start and say I think they did listen to our comments. I think the addition of the gazebo as well as the stairs I think is big to get into that lower area. They do have a significant grade differential as we discussed last time. So that's appreciative, showing where the greenway is in connection with that as well. And and the sidewalk, I think is a good step forward.
Yeah, just to add to that, Corey, I think, I mean, it's a difficult site with so much grade change between building 1 and that Sawyer Road extension. So I think the thing that was lacking for me the last time, which was not really understanding the character of the street edge, I think the landscape plan has really helped to show us what to expect for that with the street trees and shrubs. So I appreciate the fact that they took all our comments into consideration.
Thank you. Again, I don't know what the professional landscape people on our team think, but there are rather low shrubs around the gazebo. I believe that's kind of a lawn kind of area. It's an underground stormwater device, but I don't know if we would want to open up to that or not, or if, what your thoughts are about that, but I'm not necessarily stuck with all the plantings right around it. I don't know what your thoughts are with that, as well as, I think last time we had some discussions, is there room, or would we want to plant anything up against that retaining wall? Don't know if you have any additional thoughts about that. It sounded like it was pretty close to where the underground device started.
Yeah, that was just one of the questions I had is there something that we can do to alleviate the kind of massive blank wall that gets created from the retaining wall? I think the stairs and the gazebo go a long way, and I really appreciate that change. I think that kind of makes that a much more usable space. But if we could, I was kind of going back and forth because I'd hate to make a safety situation where you already have the retaining wall blocking views. Maybe adding shrubbery along that makes that worse. But maybe if the addition of some small low shrubbery along the retaining wall there at the bottom might alleviate just kind of some of that monotonous blank wall.
I would agree with that, and maybe even not, maybe it's in chunks, but not, not the full length of it, but just to break it up. If there are little chunks of it, I would almost wonder if, just replacing, or just relocating some of the ones that are around the gazebo, or, I don't know. But I do agree with the kind of the small kind of idea of it and the safety.
Yeah, I think everybody's right on. I would, similar to the last one, I would remove the shrubs from around the pavilion, and in this case, see if you can put them up against the wall, or add, put them up against the wall in a thoughtful way. And if that means adding some, that'd be great.
Any other thoughts from the commission? Should we go ahead and open it back up to the applicant and ask if that would be something that they would be willing to consider, or get their additional thoughts with the placement of the plantings? Tim or
Corey,
Jennifer?
this is Aaron. Is that a question or a do that?
I'm just questioning if that's something you would be willing to consider. Is play, or is it? I guess the first question would be for Tim: would planting along that wall even be doable with the underground stormwater device there? And then 2, if so, would you be willing to relocate maybe some of the ones that are around the gazebo to the wall in a nice pattern?
Yeah, Mr. Bates, we could accommodate that. The detention basin, underground detention basin is placed. There's a 10-foot easement that goes around the perimeter of that entire basin. That is something that we could consider. I would have to run it by Contech, who is the actual developer, and they're designing the underground detention for us. But we can possibly make some placements in there depending upon their recommendations of them being allowed in the easement.
Okay.
But yes, but shrubs will be fine if it's low shrubs, not understory trees or anything like that. I think shrubs would be acceptable by us and the client. So.
Okay, that's great. I think the recommendation is that it's not the entire length of the wall that we're trying to do. It's in a nice pattern along that wall to where, there's sections of it. So it wouldn't necessarily be the full length of that wall, just really something to break up that wall.
Absolutely. We could accommodate that.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the commission? Being none, maybe we can go ahead and look through the findings. The approved alternate meets the intent of the Built to regulations. I believe it does. The approved alternate does not substantially negatively alter the character defining wall or establish a build to pattern that is not harmonious with the existing built context. I think we agree with that. And then the change in percentage of building that occupies the build to area or increased setback does not negatively impact pedestrian access, comfort, or safety, which we were just talking about. And I think the additional sidewalks and plantings and stuff, it actually helps improve it. Site area that would have otherwise been occupied by buildings converted to an outdoor amenity area, which it is. So the approved alternate conforms with the comprehensive plan and adopted city plans. If we can look at the policy findings or the policies and substantiate it.
LU 4.5.
Can you say that one again? You're breaking up.
LU 4.5 connectivity.
4.5. Okay.
LU 2.2.
Okay.
UD 5.4.
UD 5.4. Okay. Carter, staff, do you have that?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So that being said, do we have a motion?
I can make a motion to approve with the understanding that the shrubs around the pavilion would be moved over to the wall and possibly shrubs added, potentially shrubs added to break up the blank wall.
I will second that motion. Are there any other discussion?
Corey, if I could just get some clarification on that.
Yes.
So are you saying this is a condition of the approval here, the statement that Adam just made? And if it is, are you okay with this language as I'm about to state? The planting of shrubs shall be provided along the retaining wall in a harmonious pattern. Do you have other language you want to use?
I think that sounds.
Should we add it does not impact stormwater retention?
Yeah, we're at as allowed by existing stormwater design.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the removal of the shrubs around the pavilion.
Okay. And okay, so that'll be a second condition that how do you want to word that exactly around the gazebo?
The shrubs located directly adjacent to the gazebo be removed.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
You comfortable with that, Adam?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay, and I have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, ask that you raise your hand. I need to get to a screen where I can see it. Can anybody see that? Or Charles, can you remove that? There we go. Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Any opposed? No, okay.
Corey, can you give me the motion and the second to do what?
Yeah, Adam made the motion. I made the second. Ms. Corey.
Thanks.
All right. Thank the applicant for that one. So we will go on to case number 3, AAD 26-20. It's 8080 Arco Corporate Drive. Our applicant is Michael Vamprin, and I believe Carter is going to present this one. If you'd go ahead, Carter.
Sure, thank you. Yes, 8080 Arco Corporate Drive. The request is for the build to. I'm not going to go into the intent or the descriptions, as we've already gone over 2 of these cases. But the applicant is proposing to develop an office building zoned office mixed use 7 stories with parking limited frontage. As this is parking limited frontage, it's a general building. So that means 50% is required to the build to within the step back range of 3 to 100 feet from the primary street. In this case, the primary street is Arco Corporate Drive. And as you'll see in a minute, the proposed office building is situated approximately in the middle of the site with parking around it. There is an amenity area that includes seating and plantings. They've named it the Collaboration Terrace. It's directly adjacent to the building to the north. It's also worth noting that only a portion of the Arco Corporate Drive adjacent to the site is a public street. The remaining portion to the south is a private drive, actually. Applicant can kind of expand on this. But that means only the public street portion would be used to calculate the build to for the site. The proposed building occupies 164 feet, the lot width along the right of way for the public portion. The adjacent amenity area takes up another 131 feet. And there's also an amenity area to the far north of the site that I believe will be undeveloped. That's additional 161 feet. When combined, all these numbers add up to about 62% in the lot width along the public street. And of course, over the 50%. Unless there's any questions of me, I'm happy to turn it over to the applicant.
Any other questions from the commission or staff? All right, being none, we will go ahead and open it to the applicant.
Thank you, Carter. This is Michael Vampran. I'm at 129 Beasley Avenue, Durham, North Carolina. So as Carter mentioned, we are proposing a 4-story office building here. The zoning is parking limited. So again, that means that 50% of the build to is only measured along the public right of way. So next slide, please. So we'll just go into a brief project introduction. You saw the site plan before you, a little bit into the administrative alternate findings, and then we'll show the proposed alternates of how we're actually enhancing the areas that we intend to be kind of developed areas. So next slide, please. So again, it is a 4-story building. It creates approximately 95,000 square feet of office on a 7-acre site. It's zoned OX 7PL and is along Arco Corporate in Briar Creek. We're proposing 1.36 acres of outdoor amenity space, 19% of the site area. You'll see that a lot of the area I wouldn't define as usable. The areas that we are using to meet the build-to requirements, we are proposing and actually an active use along it. And so just for everybody's context, we did go to the Board of Adjustment for relief from right-of-way standards. And that goes into what Carter was starting to acknowledge about how the public road transitions into a private road. So I'll go into that a little bit further. So we have a 0 to 100 foot build-to requirement. Approximately, we have 22% of the building frontage along the public right-of-way right now. And so the existing public right-of-way of Arco Corporate actually transitions into a private road. So next slide, please. As you'll see in yellow here, the yellow is actually the public right-of-way. It's a fairly unique situation, and the red is private road. So kind of everything you see in green there are actually contaminated soils. I wouldn't go so far as to call them actually a brownfield site, but they are heavily contaminated soils. And so Raleigh didn't want to take on the liability of those contaminated soils with the public road, hence why it transitions from a public road to a private road. And that was kind of at the root of the adjustment, was relief from right-of-way standards for the actual public component of this, insofar as that Arco Corporate actually provides the entirety of the streetscape as it is. So It has bike lanes, it has a tree lawn area, a sidewalk. All those streetscape elements are actually existing. So we were able to get approval from the Board of Adjustment to not provide that additional right-of-way. I think it was 2 or 3 feet of additional right-of-way. So all that to say is that all of our build-to calculations are actually associated with just the public component of that. And so to the kind of the northeast there, what I'd like to highlight is the constrained parcel dimensions. So it kind of narrows down, and that's about 100 feet in depth from the right-of-way to those contaminated soils, and that area is actually a stream buffer. So it's approximately 400 feet where we're not actually physically able to put a general building width, call it 100 or 120 foot in width. So the constrained parcel proportion definitely significantly reduces our ability to put a building there, along that area. So next slide, please. So I won't go into the intent behind it, but with the combined building of 164 feet and the proposed courtyard 131 feet in width, and those are the areas that we're actually trying to amenitize, the build-to is right at 40%. The additional 161 feet of outdoor amenity area to the north would bring it up to a 62% build-to standard. So I just want to acknowledge that for that area to the northeast, we are proposing to maintain that in kind of a natural vegetated state. It's a fairly significant topographic draw down to that stream buffer. It's about 10 foot of fall or a 40% slope. So it's fairly hard to actually create that into a usable area. So we're just kind of currently proposing to maintain that as natural vegetation. It's a mix of pines and hardwoods that kind of transitions to that stream buffer. So next slide, please. We believe that it does conform with the comprehensive plan and the city plans. This area, I would say, is generally categorized as a suburban office park. It is automobile dependent, and the parking limited frontage kind of acknowledges that we are kind of by right allowed a bay of parking in between the building and the public right of way. And that's if you're familiar with Briar Creek, that's definitely the character with a lot of these office buildings out here. So we believe that it does harmonize with the existing built environment in that perspective. And it maintains the same appropriate building transitions as the other office buildings do. Next slide, please. So we don't believe that it negatively alters pedestrian access, comfort, or safety. It maintains the existing streetscape and provides an internal courtyard for pedestrian use while maintaining appropriate transition to these environmental features. So the area that would otherwise be occupied by building is occupied by outdoor amenity area. And the primary courtyard is what we'll draw your attention to in the presentation. So next slide, please. So as you see in green here, as I was alluding to, this is the outdoor amenity area on site. I would say most of the peripheral isn't quote unquote usable. The area there highlighted 131 feet is the active courtyard that we're proposing to be amenitized with this area. The 161 feet to the northeast, that is the area that we're proposing to just be maintained in natural vegetative state. I do believe that would help with the riparian buffer and the transition to that area. And again, the steep slopes right now prohibit us from putting a retaining wall or putting actual and active outdoor amenity area there. So next slide, please. So I'll go into our proposed alternate and what we're doing with this courtyard. So it's a collaboration terrace. We've decided to go with something that kind of creates small spaces, seating areas in this area. Given all of COVID-19 and how that's going to go into the future, we felt that it was better to have these kind of small enclaves of spaces. And so we're proposing shade structures, seating and dining options for the users and guests. And again, the numbers there just reiterate the different percentages of what that means. So next slide, please. So this is the actual proposed concept that we're going forward with. We're calling it a collaboration terrace, and the intent is to have intimate, small group focused. So we're providing some shade sails to provide some shade adjacent to this 4-story building, and we're providing a mix of kind of deciduous understory and canopy trees. And really, the whole intent here is to have a variety of seating options. We're providing kind of cafe-style seating, something that is good for just 2-3 people. And then we're providing kind of these built-in planters into these retaining walls. There's a little bit of topo change here. about 2 or 3 feet from kind of the parking up to the office. And so we're embedding these planter seats into these retaining walls, as well as providing some more kind of quote unquote community style seating there, as you see in B, as well as just kind of loose floating seating. So we believe that the intent behind this kind of active outdoor amenity area meets the intent. And so between this active space and the natural area there to the north and the building, we do exceed the build-to percentage right at 62%. So open for any questions, and thank you for hearing our case tonight.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the commission for the applicant? Any questions for staff? Michael, just one more time, just so everybody's clear. So if you removed the 161 feet as it's, kind of pretty good topography right there and natural area, and you take the 164 and the 131, we're at, what's the percentage that we're at?
We're right at 40%.
40%, okay, great. All right, any other questions? I understand there's nobody from the public that wishes to speak as well, so we can go ahead and close this for discussion amongst the commission. I'll start and just say that I think they've taken a great shot at it. I think that, between the building and the courtyard, they're right there. I mean, it's pretty close to meeting the intent. With that natural area, it is, leaving it kind of undisturbed with the topography and everything that's down at that end. I don't know that there's anything that we'd want down there or that anybody would ever use it. So I think the intent is, in my mind, been met with the courtyard amenity. It looks like they did a nice job thinking that through and really making a nice amenity for the building.
Yeah, Corey, I would agree that I'd prefer that they leave the 161-foot area undisturbed and really focus on having a good quality spot near the building.
Thank you, Candace. Any other thoughts, comments?
So I just wanted to clarify kind of like what you said, Corey, with the courtyard amenity and the 161 preserved steep slopes and the build to of the building, they're at 40% build to and the requirement is 50%. Is that right?
I'm going to let staff, Carter, if you could.
Yeah, I believe that when you're counting the 164 of the building and the 131 of the courtyard, you're at 40%. But then when you add that entirety of the 161 to the north, that's when you come up with the 62% of it.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was trying to get clear. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? All right, being none, maybe we can go through the findings. Findings are going to start sounding very familiar. The approved alternate meets the intent of the Build 2 regulations. I believe it does. The approved alternate does not substantially negatively alter the character defining street wall or establish a build to pattern and is not harmonious with the existing built context. It pretty much matches what's going on across the street. The change in, and probably a little better, the change in percentage of building that occupies the build to area or increased setback does not negatively impact pedestrian access or comfort. It doesn't. And a site area that would otherwise been occupied by buildings is converted to an outdoor amenity area, which it does. The approved alternate conforms with the comprehensive plan and adopted city plans. Any policies that anybody would like to throw out?
UD 4.1, public gathering spaces.
LU 7.4, scale and design of new commercial uses.
UD 1.4, where the courtyard continues that building facade.
Okay. Any other discussion? I haven't heard any motions. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve as brought forward.
Second.
I'll second that.
Who's the second? Is that Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, a motion from Corey, a second from Chris. Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's unanimously approved. All right, thank you very much. I believe that ends our business portion of the meeting. If we want to go ahead and go through just a couple things really quick. Carter, would you like to go ahead and discuss a little bit on where we are with the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards?
Happy to. Lee is off right now, so let me pull up. She sent me an update. Just to let you know, all the parts of the virtual event have been built. About 30 videos total, and the content editing from our end is complete. So the communications department has it. RTN is working on it right now. Peter Lamb and the Wolves gave us a good chunk of music to add in there. So we have an intro set, about 5 minutes long. Then Corey does a welcome, introduces the award ceremony, hands off to the mayor. And then David Hill from the School of Design, then go to the 10 projects. Each has a presentation video as well as one of the commission members presenting it. So right now, as I mentioned, the communications department has all the content we need, and unfortunately, our target date was the 16th to get it out, but I think getting everything kind of a little late, mainly from the applicants or the winners, we kind of knew we were pushing that back recently. So right now, like I said, we have the communications; they're working on it. The RTN, I should say, the video folks. But the communication staff is wondering if we want to kind of wait till beginning of next year to kind of do a big outreach for it, and just kind of wait till then to post it. But our staff or UDC's thoughts initially with communications was to put it up on the website, let the winners know, kind of announce it or social media by the end of the year if possible. But then kind of have a bigger kind of maybe a soft launch, if you want to call it that, for the end of the year, and then kind of follow up, once we, after the hubbub of the holidays, and kind of really, do a push for it. So we kind of want to get the commission's thoughts about that. I think the initial read from communications, we could get it done in terms of the editing and everything, but that they were hesitant to do a big push marketing wise until after the holidays. So again, we want to try to get on the website and do maybe a soft launch and then kind of follow up with, kind of the big push after the first of the year. What do you get your thoughts?
Carter, what would the big push be?
I'm sorry?
What would the big push be? Like if we did a soft launch and then a big push? I guess my initial thought is that they're the 2020 awards, so I want them to be in 2020. And so I'm wondering, like, is the big launch worth it? I don't know.
Well, I think communications thoughts are they don't want this to get lost in with everything. And we spoke, and if you think about these traditionally, who comes to the event, it's the winners and people in the design community, and I think we do an admirable job trying to get out to the non-design community, non-development community, but we're not really getting a lot of that. So, I think just if it was any other year, we probably would not get a lot of press for the awards. And I think it's kind of like this, but with a virtual event, we want to share it with the winners, make sure they know. I don't think we'll be able to get the certificates and kind of gift baskets out to them till after the first anyways. But I think generally if they can get the video done and on it, we probably would not have any support from communications getting the word out till after the first year. So that's kind of, I think, what our extent is. But we could still post it on social media and put it on the website, let the winners know, and kind of get that out there. But I think we wouldn't really have kind of the assist on the larger scale until after the holidays.
I saw a lot of heads nodding when it was mentioned, trying to get it in this year. I think that's key. If we wanted to do a preview and it's more of a soft launch, kind of like a restaurant opening preview, and it's on YouTube and what other social media sites, I think that's great. And then if we want to towards at the end of the year or even at the first of the year do something on RTN that's more formal, to me that is fine. But I'd rather kind of get it out there and let people kind of see it. I think people are excited about it now. We can post it on the AIA website and some of those sites where some of the design community already sees it. And I think just passing it around, like I said before, I think the kind of the benefit of doing this virtually is that people who no longer live here, some of the design community that maybe live on the West Coast or up in New York or wherever now has the opportunity to kind of be involved and see what's going on in Raleigh. I'd like to go ahead and pass that around, kind of show Raleigh off a little bit.
Yeah, this is William. I would totally agree. And I'm sorry, I know there was some holdup on my end. I got surgery the day after I found out I was supposed to be recording videos, which caused a little bit of issues. But yeah, I would say I know that the award winners are going to be excited. There, as Candace mentioned, there's a 2020 award. I'd rather just go on and get it out there and not to take anything away from City of Raleigh's communications department, but I think between all of us and social media and the fact that nobody has anything else to do and is looking for new content to watch, that we can do a pretty good job of getting some stuff out there ourselves as it goes, and people can always watch things later if needed. I wouldn't want to hold up the ability for award winners to be able to celebrate their win just based on the fact of some simple logistics.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a risk of some of the excitement and spirit of it getting lost if we do it in 2021. And I like the idea of having a pulse now and people being able to see it and experience it and the winners celebrating. And then if the communications does something later, that there's, I think, nothing wrong with that. If there's a blast sometime later, it'll get some eyes that it wouldn't have gotten in the first round.
And Carter, I don't think it's a big deal at all if the winners get their gift basket and certificates later, in January or something. But I just don't think we're going to get as great of a reaction, if we tell people in January of 2021 about the 2020 awards when people are very ready for 2020 to be over. I think we'll get more impact now, and I agree with William, and that we can just, push it out to our network, and that's going to be huge when you combine all of us together.
Yeah, I mean, that, and people are, they're going to be off. They're going to be looking for things to watch and things to kind of experience together with their family members and stuff too as well. So, I mean, if we can go on and get any sort of content for them to be able to enjoy and appreciate rather than trying to fit something else in later, I think that would be good.
Carter, this may be a question for you. I don't feel that strongly of, I think it's okay if we're in the beginning of 2021. At the same time, if we weren't planning to do some type of mark your calendars reveal event where people are watching, then I agree that now could be as good a time as any to release it. Is that realistic with production and packaging it up into an easily shareable format for us?
I think it is. I think in Lee's discussions with the video staff that they could have it quicker than, I don't know if it's a 10-day turnaround, but, I think Lee was very conscientious and, getting the requirements that she needed and the format and everything. And she did a lot of work in this prep. So I think it's going to pay off. And, but I think we can let them know that our desire is to have this as soon as possible so we can at least do, get that out as much as we can. In the past, we generally, we hold the event and then the city does a follow-up in terms of, hey, these are the winners. And, we try to coordinate with the winners to let them, hey, here's our press release. You can, modify this as you want. So, I think if we do that and if we can get it out very soon and the winners can start, announcing it, we're happy to do that. So I think we've gotten a lot of feedback and trying to push communications to get this out as soon as possible, as opposed to trying to wait.
I think that's good direction.
Okay. This William, I would just say, if I know correctly, just kind of my many communications with Lee about my videos. It sounds like she was pretty much finished with all editing all the videos, and they just needed to be kind of spliced together. Is that correct? Because the last thing I want is to try and ask somebody to stay and work 15-hour day the day before Christmas to try and get something out. I'm not trying to be like, that create some sort of sense of urgency like that. But, I guess from a clarification standpoint, Carter, how close is it to being done?
I mean, I don't know how close it is, but you're right. I think it's more of she did the editing, she gave them the pieces. They're putting it together. So I would hope that there's not a lot of editing to do further. But the mayor, her staff edited hers, that sort of thing. So I think I want to say it's pretty ready. I could probably at least follow up probably early next week.
Okay.
That'd be great. And she put a lot of work into it. So she's not here, but yeah, tell her good job. She spent a lot of time on it. So appreciate that. And all your staff.
Abundance of patience too.
Yes. I wasn't going to call you out, William. But
hey, yeah.
William, you weren't alone. Thank you for the WeTransfer because I couldn't get my videos to her. So I appreciate your help with that option. It was lots of volume being shared for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. And in order to keep this rolling. So,
Can I say one more thing for you real quick?
Yeah.
I've been contacted by some of the winners and they just been asking what's happening. So I wonder if there's some quick communication we can put out there soon that just says, hey, this is happening. It's not, just to let folks know so they're not wondering.
We can do that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. Carter, do we want to say anything yet about our fall retreat, or are you still working on that as far as timeline?
I think from our conversations, you and Candace seem pretty good with doing it on February 4th. we have a regular meeting scheduled for that day, but we will not have any design alternates, the quasi-judicial hearings, because we didn't get any by that deadline. So I think it's kind of natural to put it in the place of that meeting since there's nothing on the agenda. We can make sure we keep it clear, and then we're already ready to broadcast it and have a meeting spot where people have it on their calendar. So February 4th, unless you hear differently, is our initial date.
Great. So yeah, I'd suggest that if anybody has any problem, please let me know. But we're trying to keep it on a date that people already kind of had booked anyway, instead of trying to find another date that met everybody's needs. So yeah, that's great. And how about the minutes from last meeting? Everybody had a chance to review those, I'm sure. Got a few smiles, a few blank stares.
And total silence too. Yeah, total silence.
I heard her
That's right.
earlier. Jamie said she read them.
Yeah,
She
go
wasn't
ahead,
even
Carter.
No, wrong. I read notes from November 19th meeting.
She's still trying to catch up. Come on.
Were you going to say something, Carter?
There are two sets, the November 19th and the December 3rd minutes.
Oh, I thought we were going to just read. Okay. Yeah, I thought we were going to just do the 19th.
Nobody's read the minutes. Baby.
November 19th, I approve those minutes. I approve the November.
Okay, so November 19th, she's given a motion, I'm giving a second.
I wasn't even at the meeting. I can't, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, I'll give a motion to approve. Do I hear a second for November 19th?
I'll second that.
All right, we got a second from Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed?
Sure.
None, okay. Do we need to review, since that was a different meeting, do we want to do that at our other meeting, Carter, or do we do that at this meeting?
It's up to you. Generally, the city attorney's office might take a little more time to put those together, and we were thinking it would be about a month later, but she was pretty quick about it.
Yeah.
She's going on maternity leave very soon, so I think she wanted to get that out there.
So let's go ahead. Yeah. So everybody had a chance to review from, what was it, December 3rd? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. It's Chad.
All right, Chad. I'll give a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. The last final thing is I sent out an invite. If you did not get an invite for a little meeting after this, please email me and let me know, because I probably don't have your correct email address. So if anybody's looking at me with a blank stare, please raise your hand. Otherwise, when you email me, you can email me at Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at newcitydesign.com. Otherwise, I look forward to meeting you on the other side in the Zoom meeting in just a couple minutes. Does that sound good? All right. Adjourned.